Did you understand that?
See this manuscript here?
Yeah.
This was carbon dated by the Oxford University from the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have written, this is unlike even the Bible. You know, from the Bible, from the Jesus to the 100 years, you'll not find a single manuscript.
I like how you say
have
the Bible, as if the Bible is any trustworthy.
No, I'm telling you the other counter.
As if there's any trust to the Bible.
Well, it's whether trust or not, the important thing is about the preservation. Both the books, the Bible and the Quran,
claims to be preserved.
The people who actually believe in them, they claim that it's from God. So I'm telling you that the Quran, unlike the Old Testament and the New Testament, have something from the person to whom it was revealed within a few decades. Forget about a few hundred years. Within a few decades of his time. Now listen to this. A book like the Old Testament, between Moses and the earliest extant manuscript, you have like 1,000 to 1,100 years gap. And between Jesus and the earliest extant manuscript of the New Testament, you're talking about more than 150 to 200 years. And even that, the early ones are just fragments. Here we are talking about the entire Quran in the Topkapi Museum manuscript itself. You're talking, and the Sana manuscript.
In Sana'a, Yemen.
Okay, you gave me lots of information.
Yeah.
So go and check.
How does this in any way contradict what I told you?
It contradicts in one way, because you are saying that the best way of preservation is written, but I'm telling you the written thing. For example, most of the written history is like, you heard of the saying, history is by the victors.
Of course.
So what they do is they would write something contrary to what happened actually. So it is either hearsay or fabricated, or sometimes even the truth. I'm not saying it's always false. How are you to ascertain what really happened here? This way of preservation of the written history is never accurate to the point of an independent attestation of the Quran. When I say independent, you're talking about different chains of narration from many different places.
I think you misunderstand something. Because I will not try to claim as if I have the absolute version of history, as if history is 100% certain. I never claim that. I will not use the same fallacies.
No, I'm talking about the way of preservation.
You say that the things written in the Quran and your history that you are claiming that really happened.
No, only the Quran. That is history.
Are the absolute.
I said the Quran and the Hadith, at least the Sahih Hadith.
The problem.
We have.
I do not claim that what I say is absolutely certain.
Yeah, but you don't claim you exist absolutely.
You do claim that what you're saying is
Paulo, you don't claim anything absolute.
I've told you many times.
You don't claim anything absolute. Am I right? Am I right? For you, nothing is absolute. No, it's not an ad hominem. It's a fact.
Yes, it is.
It's a fact for you.
Yes, it is an ad hominem.
How is it ad hominem if you believe it?
The argument. You're ridiculing the argument.
Okay, let me tell you.
No. I'll let you speak. Let me speak.
Okay, go on. Fair enough. Go on.
Okay.
Speak.
We need to wrap up. By the way, we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
We need to go. So
very quickly, let him make his point, and then I'll make one final point, and then we
make my final point about if I do exist or not.
Yes.
When I told you I'm not certain of my existence, again, because it seemed to be hard to understand, for you to understand.
Here comes a consequence.
I understand why, because you're a religious person. For you, your knowledge is absolute. Now, the perception of my existence is not absolute.
Which is what I said.
My sight is not absolute.
Which is what I said.
My feelings are not absolute.
How is that ad hominem?
Stop interrupting me, Hashim.
But how is that ad hominem? I agree with you.
Be civil.
Okay, go on.
Now, my perception of myself is not the same as your perception of me. And my perception of you is not the same as your perception of yourself.
Okay.
And every single person here has a different perception of different people. Now, what does this mean? My existence depends on my perception. What I told you is that all I have is perception of myself, based on my feelings, based on my knowledge, based on my past. That is why I am not certain of my existence as I see it now. Do you understand it, Hashim?
No need to shout. No need to get condescending. Okay, by the way, from what I said to you, how is that different? I said
it's completely different.
I said based on your understanding, you're not even sure if you exist. That is what I said. Now, how is it different to what you just explained?
You did not understand what I told you.
Okay.
By the way, let's agree.
If you did understand, you are feigning as if you didn't understand. Hashim, you need to stop playing dumb sometimes.
Let's agree.
What he's saying is that
I know you're triggered because you have been found out. You are right. That's why you're okay. Now I'll let you speak. Now let me speak. Look, whether you exist or not, that's an important point we were discussing here. We were discussing.
It's not important. Now
no, it's not.
Disproved what you
it's not important. And stop interrupting. Use your own preaching. Okay. Now what I'm saying is this: if history cannot be certain because it's written either by victors, it can be manipulated, it can be fabricated, and it can even be correct in certain cases. But I want you. Now this is for you because I've given the reason why I believe the Quran and the Hadith, yes, the Sahih Hadith are accurate and cannot be altered based on the stringent science of collection of the hadith and the stringent science of the collection and preservation of the Quran. I want you to give me any example from history where there is independent attestation and it can be fabricated. Go on.
You have such a ridiculous lack of self-awareness. You claim that history is not certain because it's written by people and it's distorted by the victor.
Is that what I said?
But yes, it's
is that what I said?
What you said. It's exactly what
I said that I'm
history is written by the victor and thus it is distorted.
Was that the only thing I said?
Distorted. That's one of the things that you said.
And I also said it can be accurate. Remember?
Hashim,
so don't. No, you're misquoting me now. You're misquoting. Okay. Anyway.
Listen, Hashim, you're the one who's getting triggered.
Answer my question next time if you have an answer. Otherwise, we leave it there because I said history can be fabricated, it can be changed, it's written by victors, and it's also accurate. But he only picked up on one of those points, and that is very, very insincere of you.
It's not absolutely accurate. There is a possibility that parts of history are not exactly what happened.
That's what I said.
That is why we need
That's
to
exactly
see
what I said.
different sources. That is why I told you the book that I quoted to you recites the Muslim scholars and the Christian scholars, and it tries to kind of put them together. What was actually relatively possible to happen.
Who is that person? Do you know him?
Okay, the book that I...
Not the book, the author. Do you know the author?
I didn't write down the author.
No, you don't have to.
It's called In God's Path.
Yeah, but if you don't know the author, then if you don't know the author, then I can only say that. Look,
am I obligated to know the author?
No,
I know the title.
You know, I'm not saying what you're obligated and what you're not obligated. What I'm saying is that when you read a book, at least you should know if the author is reliable. Okay, if the author is not reliable, he's not someone who's a professional in understanding the the preservation of the Quran or preservation of the Bible. If he's talking about that, then he's not someone who's professional. Okay, but if he is, but like I said,
David Yellow.
Okay, what is he? What's his qualification?
I have no idea.
Okay, because you know there are people like Jay Smith. He's saying he's an expert in Islam. So people claim many things, but unless we see the credentials, there's no way to know these things.
This is the Scotsman fallacy. Every time somebody puts you in front of a fact that you don't like, you will say that's not real Islam. But that's not real Islamic history. That's whitewashing. That is.
I gave the example about Jay Smith.
That is the Scotsman fallacy.
No, it's not a Scotsman. No. It's not a.
You will say that's not a real fact.
In the case of Jay Smith, it's not a Scotsman fallacy because he doesn't have a qualification.
I'm not talking about Jay Smith.
But I was. When you made the statement as a Scotsman fallacy, sorry. What I'm saying is that if I have knowledge about the author and if I know his qualification, then we can actually say yes, what he has written is something worth looking at.
Okay, but if qualification is what matters.
Can I finish? Okay. If someone like Jay Smith comes and tells me I'm an expert on Islam and the guy's got 0 degrees in Islam, then how can I trust him? It's got nothing to do with the Scotsman fallacy, which you incorrectly brought in. But what I said, what I said was this: with regards to history, I gave you at least four different ways how it can be manipulated, and one of those 4 was one of those four was that it can also be accurate. But you only, unfortunately, picked up on one of those criteria.
I hope you won't deny what you just said.
Okay.
Which part?
The part that if you don't have a degree in something, you cannot really talk about it. If you don't study something, you cannot really talk about it too much. Now, based on that, why would you believe Muhammad, who was illiterate?
Okay, first and foremost, what does illiterate mean?
Illiterate means somebody who doesn't know how to write.
Someone who cannot write. Can he memorize and speak things?
You are missing my point.
Can you answer the question?
No, calm down.
Just answer him.
Yeah.
Listen, you told me that the more studies, the more knowledge somebody amasses, the more trustworthy they are. I could not agree more.
Yes.
Now, if that is the main point why you qualify knowledge, why do you trust Muhammad, who had no knowledge whatsoever?
Coming from an agnostic, that's a good question.
Okay, there you go.
It's a good question. Yes? Do you believe in messengers getting revelation from God?
Possibly, at least.
No, because you're not sure if God exists.
You're agnostic.
Yes. Okay, good. Now that is the difference between someone who claims to have prophecy, someone who claims to be a messenger, and getting revelation. You know the difference between someone who is a layman or someone who is even educated, yes, and someone who claims to be messenger. We don't equate them all together the same. So a messenger, we test them for the prophecies, we test them based on the miracles that God has provided them. We don't just accept just because he claims to be a prophet of God, we accept him as a prophet of God. God has given us the ability and the criteria how to identify true and false prophets, and this goes in all the Abrahamic faiths.
Okay.
We have this criteria. So does that answer your question?
Okay, so
it's got nothing to do with
the
literacy.
ones who choose
Yeah.
who speaks for God and who's just illiterate.
So who God, it doesn't matter if
and the people are trustworthy in
No,
that
no, it's not about illiterate.
In the choice whether we can trust an illiterate person from the desert or we cannot trust an illiterate person from the desert.
I think you did not either listen to me or you did not understand what I said.
I did
so
listen to
if
you,
a
but
prophet,
the problem is that I do not trust when a person tells me he's the messenger.
Paulo, listen to this. If something,
for me.
if someone does a miracle in front of you, yes, which you cannot even accept or understand scientifically. For example, in the case of Moses, he split the Red Sea. Maybe you don't believe that to be historical fact, but the thing is, that if you had seen it with your own eyes, would you believe it?
Why don't you believe in the Iliad?
What Iliad?
In the Iliad, you don't know. You gave me.
I know, but what about the
Odyssey
Iliad?
is another thing. The Odyssey is different to the Iliad.
What about the Iliad?
The Iliad, the Trojan War, the Iliad, right?
What about that?
Let's talk about it. It's about Greek mythology, how the Greek gods came from the skies and helped the Greeks win the war against the Trojans. Some gods were supporting the Trojans, some gods were defending the Greeks. I did read it in very big detail.
Yeah.
Do I believe it? No, of course not.
Okay, so you're asking.
It's a story for children.
So you're asking me why I don't believe it?
Why do you
Should I tell you why?
believe in the Quran and you don't believe in the Iliad?
First and foremost, we were talking about the Prophet Muhammad being unlettered, and why I don't believe. I don't know how you jump to the Iliad. It's got no connection. Because one
mythology. Just
No,
like
no.
Quran.
The Quran is not the mythology. A mythology is something like the Greek mythologies, where you have multiple gods telling you different things, and they fight each other to win. In the case of Islam, if you believe in a polytheism, that itself is contrary to the belief in one God. And do you know why? Allah gives us a reason in the Quran itself, that if you have two mighty beings, both of them claiming to be God, then who is the most powerful? Who is going to have the upper hand or the say as the last say? Say for example, one God said, I want sunset now. And the other God, who's equally powerful, says, no, I want sunrise now. What will happen? Clearly they'll have a clash. And that is exactly what happened in the Hindu mythology, where the gods fought each other, and the Greek mythology, where the gods fought each other. And that is the reason I don't believe in the Iliad. Does that answer your question?
So you don't believe in the Iliad while believing in the Quran?
Yes.
Just because the Quran has one God instead of having many?
Yes. So it's not only that's not the only reason.
Okay.
That's not the, I can give
why
you.
are you not a Jew?
I can give you many other reasons. I can give you many other reasons. By the way, a Jew. By the way, a Jew by definition is someone who believes in one God already. Yes. A Jew by definition doesn't believe in Jesus as a Messiah and Prophet Muhammad.
I can't hear you over the balaclava. Could you take it off, please?
Okay.
Don't worry about faith.
Yeah, I think it's.
I don't worry. I just can't hear you.
Okay, so Prophet Muhammad and even Jesus and even Moses, all of them, they had the test of prophethood in terms of the message, in terms of the, and they were all given this special, favor by God of doing miracles to prove to people like you, yes, and specifically like you, I'm saying the reason, those who are hyper skeptical, yes, and it is something which we find in many other people, that they will be skeptical. In fact, I will be skeptical if somebody comes and tells me that I'm a prophet or someone being elected by God, because a prophet is someone who's chosen by God to do things for him. He himself will not believe it first. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, when he got the first revelation, he was reluctant. That no, I don't want this, I don't want a part of this, because this is something that is very, very difficult. Even Prophet Moses, you know, all the prophets, they had a lot of tests before they were chosen to be someone who represents God. And these people, they themselves were, just like you are being skeptical, they themselves were skeptical about their own self. That maybe, no, I'm listening to things, I'm hearing things. Some of them said, no, maybe I'm listening to some spirits. They themselves were questioning
God
this.
speaks to you, I think you should question your sanity before you trust what God tells you to do.
Well, I think you should question your sanity if you think we came from nowhere.
Okay, so if you think that it came from God, you shouldn't question. You should just do
I'm saying once you have established oneness of God and belief in God, then things fall in place very nicely about the universe and everything. But you trust me, if you are not going to believe in God until you go to your grave, you'll be hyper skeptical. And you'll not have peace in your mind.
Nothing wrong with that.
There will be after you open your eyes.
I'm looking for peace. I'm looking for better knowledge. And that is why you will never understand. Because you don't understand the main thing about what I'm saying, which is uncertain truths will always triumph over certain lies.
Uncertain truths. How can it be
always triumph?
How do you know the uncertainty is the truth?
The fact
that itself is a paradox.
I'm telling you,
if something is uncertain,
I will never be able to prove anything to you.
You know that is
you deny yourself the knowledge of uncertainty.
If I was going
the possibility of improving your point of view.
I have no problem improving my knowledge. In fact, in Islam, we are not restricted upon improving our knowledge. And that is the reason the early Muslims, when they actually went in the path of finding different, exploring science and geography and many other things about astronomy, that is not something, in fact the deen, the Quran and the teaching of Islam was what propelled them in these sciences. On the contrary to what you just said. So a person who is uncertain, they cannot come to a certainty that this is the truth. Okay, so like Paulo here, he's not certain whether he exists. I know I keep bringing
the
this.
The fact that I'm
but
uncertain makes me have much more knowledge than your false certainty.
What, how
your feeling of false certainty is you thinking you understand all the world.
How do you know
while
it's
you
false?
don't.
How do you know it's false?
Because your feelings are flawed.
No, no.
Your
How do you know it's
senses
false?
are
I'm
flawed.
asking you the certainty I have. How do you know it's false?
Are you a man?
Yes. Are you a man?
Yes.
Are you certain?
No. You see, this is
actually right.
This is the abdomen. This is where the abdomen.
Are you a woman?
From. This is where the abdomen comes from.
Are you a woman?
Hashim,
Are you a woman?
Hashim, stop
Are
with
you
the
a woman?
abdomen. Stop with the
Are you a
abdomen.
woman?
Stop with the
Are you a
abdomen.
woman?
Are you a woman?
I'm not a woman.
How are you sure you're not?
Because my DNA says so.
How do you know your DNA?
Because I've checked my DNA. Yes.
Have you seen your DNA? Have you felt your DNA?
That's a ridiculous
how do you know
statement to
the
make.
thing written is your DNA?
By the way, do you know in a male and female, in a male and female, you can tell by the DNA whether it's XY chromosomes and it's XX chromosomes. Which one do you have?
I'm doubtful that he exists. Shall I go?
Well, I'm doubtful he's a man, which he said himself.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Vegard and I'm a Norwegian Muslim convert. I'm working with the Dawah organization IslamNet to establish the Deen of Allah here in Norway. I am so grateful to Allah for having guided me to Islam. Sadly, I am the only Muslim in my family. It hurts me that my parents haven't accepted Islam yet, and I ask Allah to guide them. But it also gives me a special drive to work for the establishment of Islam. I don't want anyone to miss the chance of becoming Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslims are like one body. If you can feel my pain, would you please help me relieve it? You are now my new family. Click the link and donate to establish this masjid and share in the reward for the message of Islam reaching the corners of Norway.